Let's talk about some tips and tricks for goal setting, communication, and relationships as someone who has high competition. And then I'm going to talk about communication and relationships sort of together in this video because I found it hard to separate them out. So just know that those are going to be a little bit more combined than they might normally be. So for goal setting, it was really fun to think through goal setting for competition because there's so many things we can do to help you set and achieve your goals. So as you're building out long or short-term goals, I think it's really important that you find a way to infuse each of these goals with an element of competition. And yes, I know that sounds really obvious, but stick with me. Let's talk about what that could possibly look like for you. So one pathway of infusing competition into your goals is setting goals that help you to achieve a personal best. So this may be a little bit more geared toward life than it is work, but it really depends on what you do for work. But thinking about, okay, if I've done this thing before, how do I do this again in a way that's going to make me feel like I have achieved a personal best, PR, if you will. So, if you are doing something like running a race, obviously that's easy. Whatever your time was last time, you're going to beat that time. In other areas, it can be a little bit more complicated and may require a little bit more creativity, ideation, just to really think through like what would another level of personal best look like for this type of goal. And happy to help with that. Great opportunity to hire a coach and work with someone to help you with your goal setting is to really help you think outside of the box and think like, what does one-upping this last achievement of mine look like? This is a great focus for when you don't have a lot of people around you who have high competition, who aren't really interested in competing with you. To learn to be able to compete with yourself and pursue that personal best is actually going to be really supportive to you, both in an energetic way and also supportive to your relationships, because you are not trying to constantly compete with other people who are not interested in being part of the competition. So another way to infuse competition into your goals is to either set your goals with someone else or set them against someone else. So what I mean by setting them with someone else is, let's say you want a better fitness routine. You're probably going to be best suited for a race, that requires training, or joining like a gym or a sport that allows you to win or compare yourself to others as motivation. Some of the things that popped into my mind were like, a CrossFit situation, right? Where like you're kind of competing with other people, but you're also competing for that PR. You've got a group of people who are probably also competitive and like kind of cheering you on and spearing you on. So that could be a good environment. Like a Taekwondo type situation. Again, you're kind of competing with other people. You can technically be better than other people. There's also a system of like accomplishment that you can continue to best yourself in. Things like that are going to be really motivating to you. And you're sort of in this space of setting goals with people. Like you're all trying to get to this weight class, or you're all trying to get to this belt. In the process, you're competing with each other, you're competing with yourself. So that's kind of the setting the goals with someone versus against someone per se. In the against category, for example, if you run your own business, and you can kind of take this metaphor and use it for however it works for you in your life if you are not an entrepreneur, but if you run your own business, maybe you find other similar businesses or entrepreneurs or business owners and kind of see what they're doing. They're people that you admire, they're, income levels that you admire, whatever it is. And you use them as your competition. Like, okay, they're here, I need to be here. And again, that person may not know you exist in this world, but you know they exist and you are competing with them. And that can be really, really motivational for you because you can continue to push yourself to beat them, even though, they're still going to succeed and you're going to succeed and everybody succeeds, and that's great. It's not for you. Again, we talked about this in kind of the introduction, that for you, competition does not mean that you want other people to lose and you want other people to fail. It's just that you want to beat them. You want to win. But like winning could mean that everybody else comes in like just behind you, right? And then everybody is thriving and everyone is succeeding. So I think it's important to like remember that when talking about competition, that it does not mean you want other people to fail. And for those of you watching who don't have competition, it does not mean they want you to fail. They just want to be a little bit better than you. That's all. They just need to beat you. That's it. But they also would like you to succeed, because if you succeed and they beat you, then they really succeed, right? If you fail and they beat you, then that doesn't mean anything. They didn't really win. What did they win? If they just beat you and you failed, then they probably failed too. See where I'm going with that? The other thing about goal setting for you, and I rarely recommend this because I personally do not thrive in this area, but you might, is KPIs and SMART goals. So KPIs, or key performance indicators, oftentimes are set by organizations at a very high level, and then it's up to each team to kind of figure out how they're going to meet those KPIs throughout the year. KPIs are probably awesome for you because you're like, sweet, I know what like an A looks like, even an A plus, and I can get there before everyone else. I can beat everyone else. Like, my team can be the best at achieving our KPIs. It's a very clear indicator for you of success, which is the whole point of key performance indicators. And so you probably really like those. You thrive with those. If your organization does not have key performance indicators, maybe it's something you set for yourself, or you encourage your team to set KPIs so that you're all kind of moving toward it together and you can compete with one another to get there. But that is something to consider. If you do not have KPIs, figure out a way to implement them in your work. And then for life or work, SMART goals are probably going to be beneficial for you. They're very clear, lots of steps in how to get to that goal. You can set, high, lofty goals and figure out how to get there through the SMART framework. So you may really, really like those. And in order to set and achieve challenging goals, those could be really, really helpful formats or tools for you. Part of this is that having really clear expectations means you know what winning looks like, so it's easier for you to win. And that's something to keep in mind when you are a leader as well. If you do not have clear expectations for your direct reports, for the people on your team, it's going to be really hard for them to achieve. It's going to be really hard for them to win or be the best because they don't know what that means. So just a side note, competition or not, clear expectations are always, 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 always the way to go. And you are trying to get a group of people to achieve something, or just an individual to achieve something. All right, let's talk a little bit about communication and relationships as it pertains to competition. I say this with almost every strength, but I'm going to reiterate it here. It is very, very, very important that you gain information and truly understand competition as a strength so that you can share it with others and you can explain it to others and you can help them understand how you best operate. Competition is such a powerful motivator for you. And if people around you don't understand that, they're not going to understand how to motivate you. On the flip side, it's such a strong motivator for you. But if people don't know that, they may become offended because you're always trying to compete with them, or feel challenged in some way because you're like, oh my gosh, why are they always trying to beat me? Why do they always want to win? Why is it so important? That's why it is so, so, so important for you to understand your strengths so that you can communicate them to others, so that others can not only support you, but they can get out of your way if necessary, right? One of the amazing things about being in relationship, friendship, partnership, etc., with someone who has high competition is that it's likely that you are so keenly aware of winning and being the best and competition in general that you're actually also very aware of when others are winning and being the best and competing in some way. So whether this is in work or in life, like, call people out for that. Give them their kudos. Like, hey, you're the best at this. That's amazing. Because whether you have high competition or not, everybody likes to be seen. Everybody likes to be acknowledged and appreciated. And because you are keenly aware of what it means to win, and you can see that others are winning or doing amazing things, let them know you see that. That's a really really cool aspect of your strength that not everybody has. Not everybody can like recognize the effort and work that someone has put in to achieve, right? They may only see the achievement. And so harnessing that can be a really powerful relationship tool for you. All right. We've talked a little bit about this in some of the blind spots, but in terms of communication and relationships and the competition, winning at all costs, especially in relationship, is not winning. It's really, really important that you consistently remind yourself of this when it comes to your relationships. You do not need to always be competing with close friends, with partners, with family. I know that it's important for you to win, but at what cost? So that is a question I want you to ask yourself when you're feeling this competitive drive, when you're feeling like I need to be the best and I need to win, especially when it's in regard to relationships, family, friends, etc. What is the cost of you winning? Is the energy boost you get from that pursuit worth whatever the cost is? And this might not be some big like, oh, the relationship ends type thing, but little layers, little challenges, little frustrations are things that kind of can build into bigger things. So in relationship, it's really important for you to not only ask yourself that question, but also like make sure you are satisfying your competitive side. Make sure you are feeding your competition in other ways, whether that be work or sports or just achievement in general, working for like being in a club or trying to meet a fundraising goal, like whatever it is, feed your competition there so that you're able to kind of let it take a step back when you're in human relationship and when you are trying to kind of maintain those relationships. So that's my biggest tip when it comes to relationships is make sure you are feeding competition in another area. Because if you're not feeding it in another area, it's going to pop up in your relationships and it's likely going to be a challenge. So give that a try. If you're curious about what that could look like, again, email me, ask me questions. Happy to answer them. I'm more than happy to help you kind of work through what that looks like for you so that you can preserve your relationships and not overcomplicate them with competition. All right, y'all, that's what I have for tips and tricks today. If anything popped up for you where you're like, oh, this was really helpful for me as someone with high competition, send it my way. I'm more than happy to share it with the group because we're all kind of learning together here. I hope that you take some of these, practice them, see how they show up and work for you, and just really focus on how are you satisfying that competitive need in healthy and productive ways so that it doesn't have to exist everywhere in your life. All right, until we are back here for our next strength, I hope you've enjoyed this and you've gotten something out of it, and I will see you in our next set of videos.